Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on YouTube? It's Filthy and we're back with another video. Today we are on Raid Shadow Legends free-to-play account and we are looking at the Ogryn Tribes, doing our series on looking at all the rares, talking about which champions we think are worth investing in and which ones aren't. As I always say at the start of these videos, you can level any champion up to level 40 and it isn't a waste of time because you can simply turn them into a 5-star chicken if you don't like them. But what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about which of these champions are straight up trash and chickens immediately if you want to, which ones are worth keeping to level 40 either for early dungeon progression, clan boss, faction wars, arena or so on and so forth. Which ones do we like a little bit better? We'd maybe take them to 50 because they are going to be a bit more useful. And then which ones, if any, are applicable to be 6-star worthy and would be kind of like really useful end game viable. Not really thinking too much about secret rooms because that really is a little bit niche, really getting into the end game there, but we will mention them as we go. Before we do jump in though, welcome to anybody who is new. As always, a thumbs up does brighten my day, and subscribe if you enjoy Raid Shadow Legends. So let's jump in. Rocktooth, you can get this dude from the campaign, and he is not very good. A1 attacks one enemy, extra hit if he crits, so you want to build him with crit for an extra hit, but it's pretty pants. His A2 is an AoE, so that is nice. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, so that is nice. Put him in a stun set, that would be some control. He does increase crit rate on everybody for 1 turn. Super early game, maybe not a bad move because it's AoE, could stun with it in a stun set and get the crit rate, but realistically, so early in the game, a stun set's going to be hard to come by. His A3 attacks one enemy, 100% heal reduction for 2 turns, so kind of useful for the spirit keep, but you can get 50% heal reduction from gear from the cursed set, which you can farm from Ice Golem. Tons of champions do heal reduction, and I don't think he's worthwhile building just for this ability. So overall, I think this guy's a chicken. I never keep a copy of him ever. His stats incidentally are 15.5k HP, 1200 attack, which is nice, under 800 defense, which is squishy, and then 101 speed, which is pretty decent. But that guy is a straight up chicken. Next we get to Pounder, rare defense based champion. He has got a A1 that attacks one enemy, 25% chance of placing the small version of decreased attack, so 25% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Books up to 35%. Decreased attack on an A1 for a rare, even if it is the small version, I think is decent. A2 attacks one enemy, 75% chance, books up to 100 of placing a freeze debuff. If the target has a freeze, it will then have a 25% chance of placing it on another enemy. I'm not sure how this kit mechanic works, whether if he freezes, it's then a 25% chance of a second freeze, or if it means that he tries to freeze an enemy that is already frozen, it has a 1 in 4 chance of going on another enemy. Either which way, on a 4-turn cooldown, single target, not 100% chance to freeze, I don't think is a particularly good move. As a passive, increase the resistance of all allies by 15 for each active buff on this champion. Really weird, you're not going to get any use out of that early game. And he's got a magic ally attack, or in all battles 20%. Again, this guy's a straight up chicken. I think his kit is pretty useless. You're really struggling for decreased attack for clan boss, take one of these guys to 40 and then ditch him as soon as you get anybody else doing decreased attack with a better kit. Stats wise, he's got 14,500 HP, which is kind of okay. 1200 defense, which is nice, so that would make him a tanky champion. 95 speed, which is a little bit low, but I wouldn't be interested in building one out. Now we've got the Fortress Goon, rare defense type, looks a little bit like Skull Crusher, but sadly isn't. Attacks one enemy on his A1, has a 15% chance of placing the small version of decreased speed, so 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, could book up to 35% chance based on defense and attack. Decreased speed on an A1, it's a low chance, so it's a pretty meh A1. If the chance was higher, it would be nicer. His A2 is attacks everybody, 40% chance of placing the small heal reduction, again based on defense and attack. You can get it up to a 50-50 chance, and you can get it down to 4-turn cooldown. Still not a great move, even though it's an AoE, because the cooldown is kind of long, and really, who cares about the small version of heal reduction. On his A3, he will heal all allies by 10% of their max HP, and put increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. This is actually quite a good move. 10% is not a massive heal, but it is of each target's own HP, and it will also give you the small version of increased defense. Not bad, but I would be reluctant to take one of these guys past 40, I think. It does also have an allied defense dungeon aura of 23%. You can get Greybeard from the campaign, who's a skinwalker with a better defense aura, so really that's not terribly useful. HP is decent at 15,500, his defense is 1100, so he's going to be fairly tanky. Speed 90 is a little bit slow. Realistically, I don't think he's great. I mean, you could go for a stun set type build and just kind of put up with the 5-turn cooldown, but I don't think that's great. Small version of decreased speed I don't think is great. The heal is a little small, and the increased defense again is the small version, so I'd be reluctant to go past 40 with that one. Next we've got a Wagonbane, rare support champion. Attacks one enemy on his A1, 35% chance of decreased accuracy for 2 turns. Early game, a really weak debuff because you won't have the resistance to benefit from the decreased accuracy. His A2 is a single target, attacks one enemy, places a small continuous heal on the ally with the lowest HP for 2 turns, to the 7.5% continuous heal. Not a good move. 4 turns, small heal, only 1 target. His A3 attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing the big version of decreased defense for 2 turns. Also has 75% chance of decreasing turn meter by 15%. You can get both of those up to 100% if you booked it. Decreased defense is nice, but it's only the single target, so it's only really going to be useful for bosses. The rest of his kit I don't think justifies building him at all, so I did get one on this account and I chickened him straight away. He's got fairly high HP of 17,000, got defense of 936, so he's there or thereabouts with his tankiness, and 97 for speed, which is okay, but I don't think he's worth building at all. Next we've got Magmablood, a rare attack-based champion. A1 attacks one enemy, has a 15% chance of stun for 1 turn. Does buck up to 25%, but pretty rubbish A1, very low chance of the stun. So we do like stun, but too low of a chance. He then has an AoE on a 4-turn cooldown, again a little bit long to slap him in a stun set. It's got a 30% chance of placing decreased accuracy. As we just said, this is one of the worst debuffs early game, so not particularly interested. And then he's got a 2-time attack at random on his A3. Each hit has a 60% chance of placing a bomb for 3 turns. He can book that out so that he is placing 2 bombs with his 2 random hits. Issues with this are it's 5 turns, it's at random, it's not 100%. Bombs do a lot of damage, so it can be handy to have a bomb champion, but you're going to have to invest and pump his attack up a lot to get it worthwhile. And his kit I just don't think is good enough to build. He does have an ally accuracy in dungeons of 40, which could come in useful. Accuracy is a little bit of a sticking point sometimes early in the game, so I don't think there's anything wrong with taking one of these guys to 40 very early for your dungeon runs. Maybe you could put him in a stun set, but really I just don't think his kit is justifying being built. Stats wise, he's got 13,700 HP, low defense of 727, so he can be hard to keep alive. The speed isn't great at 93, so I would say maybe a 40 if you're really struggling for any kind of champion taking you through dungeons and you're really struggling for accuracy, but I wouldn't be 50ing this guy. I'd be quite reluctant to do that. Next we've got Ruffstone, rare attack force affinity champ. Quite an interesting one, this one, because he's got an AoE A1. That makes him an excellent candidate for a stun set, because whenever he A1s, he's got an 18% chance to stun everybody and doesn't require accuracy for that. His A2 attacks one enemy, destroys max HP by 15% of the damage inflicted. And then his A3 attacks one enemy, ignores 50% target defense. Big deal, ignoring 50% defense can hit quite hard. Also has a 50% chance of granting an extra turn if he crits. So he's basically giving himself extra turn every other go here when he crits, so you build him with high crit rate. damage, and he's going to be able to reduce max HP, and he's got an AoE A1. I think he's an interesting unit, but again, I've got one. I've not got many Force champions on the account, so I am considering taking him to 40 for Faction Wars. AoE A1 for Faction Wars, really nice for the stuns, so I wouldn't be getting rid of this guy. I also probably wouldn't be investing in him. If you're looking for him to really do damage, you're probably going to need him at 60. I think you're going to end up with better damage dealers for Force Affinity. And ultimately, there are places where destroying max HP does become handy, but you can just put a champ in a destroy set if that's what you're looking for. Stats wise, 15.5k HP, really high attack at 1350, miserably low defense of 639, and nice speed at 99. So yeah, I'm going to see how mine gets on, but I'm thinking stun set for Faction Wars, maybe level 40, maybe 50, depending on epics we get. Ogryn Jailer, rare attack based champion. A1 attacks when an enemy, 40% chance of removing one random buff. Does go up to 60%. That's quite a nice A1. If you think about a lot of the magic keep, spirit keep, those keeps tend to have buffs up on the bosses, making them annoying. A 40% chance to get rid of a random buff on the A1 is nice. A2 attacks when an enemy, 40% chance of stealing 2 random buffs from the target. So again, same comments for the A1. Places an extra hit if a buff is stolen. So if he does steal, it's a double hitter. Not a bad move. Can back up to 75% chance. A3 attacks when an enemy, damages increased by 20% if the target has no active buffs. It's not really great here. A little bit of extra damage. 5-turn cooldown on that one. Accuracy 20. I mean, come on guys, this is really stingy. 20 accuracy, dungeon aura lead. A miserably squishy champion because his HP is miserable at 11,000. Nice attack at 1300, speed 99, defense just under 1000. So really his HP is the problem. I'd consider a 40 of this guy if you need somebody to do buff strip, buff steal, and he's got a little bit of a bonus accuracy on his aura. But you can get Conqueror from the campaign, you can get Skinner, who's a lizard man, uncommon, who can do kind of buff strip. So I'm not really seeing the need to build this guy past 40, but if you happen across a copy and you're happy with him doing the removal of buff on A1, I probably wouldn't be taking him to 50. Generally, I'm not interested in how hard rares hit. I think this is one of the guys who can hit fairly hard as a rare champion. I don't think you want to be building rares for arena unless they do AoE nukage. Lumberer, rare attack based champion. A1 attacks one enemy, 30% chance of the small version of decreased attack for 2 turns. Also 20% chance of increasing the duration of decreased defense by 1 turn. So if you can get the big decreased defense on somebody, small chance to extend it. Does improve with books. Decreased attack on the A1, even though the chance isn't great, is kind of okay. Is A2 attacks one enemy. He has a 50% chance of placing the big version of decreased defense for 2 turns, so he can then have a chance of extending it with his own A1. So not too bad there. Does book up to 75%. Single target though, so you're probably only really using this in bosses or clan boss. Then he does, on his A3, places a 15% increased crit damage on himself, then hits everybody. So I think maybe for super early clan boss, decreased attack would be nice. Decreased defense on the clan boss would be nice. The extension of that on his A1 would be good. He's got an increased crit damage on himself and then an AoE on his A3. I don't think he's great. I'd be looking to do maybe a 40. Again, if I'm really missing this decreased attack roll at the start of the game. Other than that, I'm not sure that this is worth it because it's just the single target move. His stats are HP 16,000, attack 1200. 1200 is not bad for attack. Defense is pretty low at 700. Speed pretty rubbish at 89. So again, all in all, not a great champion. Wouldn't really want to take him past 40. Next up, we've got Furystoker. Again, I think this guy is campaign grabbable. He has a single attack A1 with a 15% chance of an extra hit. I don't like that at all. It's not good. He will do a complete debuff strip from one target ally. Then he heals them by 20%. The heal is increased according to the number of debuffs removed. Rubbish move, single target cleanse with heal. I do not like it. His passive, you will heal the ally with the lowest HP by 7.5% each turn. Heal can be critical, but he can't self-heal. It's a nice passive. It's a little bit like, what's her name? Doom Priest. Doom Priest has got a similar passive, albeit that does everybody, not just the lowest HP. So interesting mechanic there, but ultimately I think the rest of his kit just really doesn't do very much. HP just under 15,000, defense of 1,000, so he's got enough survivability, got nice speed at 100. I probably wouldn't be doing anything with this champion. I don't think the heal is strong enough on here or here, but he could be a healer for you. But you get, what's her name, War Priest, sorry, out the campaign. She's arguably a better healer, albeit I really think she's kind of crap as well. So I wouldn't be investing in this guy. Maybe he's slightly better at healing than the free option you get, but only just. So again, wouldn't really invest. Next we've got Siegebreaker, rare attack champion. Again, looks like Skull Crusher, but isn't. Rubbish A1, attacks 2 times. Nothing else to say about it. A2, attacks one enemy, 80% chance of blocking active skills. Only if he crits, so you've got to build him with high crit rates. Always a bit of a problem with an early champ. Only block active skills on one enemy. It's not a very good move. A3 places increased crit rate on himself for 2 turns, then does an AoE. 5-turn cooldown, which is no good. 50% chance of decreasing turn meter by 30% if he crits. So, all in all, it's potentially 30% turn meter reduction. Gives himself some crit rate and an AoE. It's not amazing. If the rest of his kit was good, I'd say you could maybe say this was a decent move, because 30% turn meter reduction is nice, but it's on like a 5-turn cooldown. He doesn't really justify bucks, and a single target block active skills I don't think is terribly useful. His A1 does nothing. Stats wise, 14k HP, 1200 attack and 881 defense, and kind of slow at 90. I would just chicken Siegebreaker if I got one. Next one we've got is Flesheater, rare support champion. A1, attacks one enemy, 20% chance of placing freeze debuff for 1 turn. Not very good, the chance is low, and freeze is not a great debuff, albeit it's okay. His A2, attacks one enemy twice, so 2 times. On each critical hit, decreases turn meter by 15%. So you can get 30% turn meter reduction, but you'd have to build him with high crit rate for that. He'll then put the big version of increased attack on all allies for 2 turns. 4-turn cooldown, not really worth it. If you think about Spirit Host, who does the big version of attack up, she also cleanses. So unless you're saying you want increased attack for faction wars, I wouldn't be building this dude at all. Does have a nice faction crypt aura, 22% HP is pretty decent, so you could take 1 to 40 for early faction wars, stick him at the front, and if there are any attack based Ogryn Tribes you've got, they will do more damage. So faction war consideration only, but I wouldn't be taking him to dungeons. I just don't think he's worth it. 14,500 HP, 1000 defense, 94 speed. He's got enough survivability. He's a little bit slow though as well. But if I got one, I'd probably chicken him. And now we get to the voids. Rockbeast is a permanent fusion. You can always fuse this guy. A1, attacks one enemy, 50% chance of provoking. Damage increases according to his max HP. So that's nice. You build him with high HP, this damage number goes up. You can book him up to 75% chance for provoke. Void affinity, 75% provoke on void is nice. Magma Dragon, that's kind of nice, and it's a high chance of crowd control, albeit provoke's not really great. You'd prefer if it was stun. He fills turn meter by 50%. That's his own turn meter, not everybody's, unfortunately. He then puts 60% increased defense on himself for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Could book that down to 3 turns. So as he's provoking, he's basically giving himself some extra turn meter and then a huge increased defense. His A3 is actually quite nice. It's an AoE. It attacks everybody, has a 75% chance of doing decreased speed. The big version, 30% decreased speed for 1 turn. Does buck up to 100% and can buck down to 4-turn cooldown. He's got a crit rate in arena aura of 16%. You're probably never going to use that. HP nice and high at just under 20,000, so 19,500 thereabouts. Not great defense at 837 and a little on the slow side at 95. For faction wars, I think this guy is a decent champ, and as I say, Doom Tower Magma Dragon, you could build him up and get this high chance provoke, which is quite nice. AoE decreased speed, the big version, is also nice, and you could in theory put him in a stun set. 4-turn cooldown I don't like for AoEs and stun sets, but you would be doing decreased speed and stunning. You would be quite tanky with your increased defense on himself. You'd be getting a little bit of turn meter for himself and a good chance to provoke on his A1. So I don't think he's a terrible guy, particularly with him being void, particularly with him being fusible directly. I could see an argument for taking him up to 50, but really the best part about him is AoE decreased speed. If you have anybody else who does that, or anybody else handling a pretty high consistent chance of provoking a single target, the need to build him goes down. But I think he's an underrated little unit actually. Bellower is a champion I really like. I've got one at 60 on my main account, and I still use him sometimes. He's got triple AoE basically. So A1 attacks all enemies, 20% chance of blocking active skills for 1 turn, goes up to 30%. So he whacks out his A1, roughly 1 in 3 enemies that get hit with it have their active skills blocked. Really powerful for dungeon waves, really powerful in arena. His AoE E2 has a 50% chance, bucks up to 75% chance, putting the small version 15% decreased speed. Decreased speed, nice powerful buff, you're just making it so that the other team doesn't take as many turns. Again, hits everybody, which is really nice. A3 attacks everybody, again it's another AoE, 75% chance of the small version of decreased attack for 2 turns, 75% chance of placing the small version of decreased defense, so 30% decreased defense for 2 turns. Both those buck up to 100, comes down to 4 turns cooldown with skills. Put this guy in a stun set and he is a fantastic control champion because every move he has is AoE, so he's always hitting everybody. They all have an 18% chance to be stunned. They've all also potentially got up to a 30% chance to have their skills locked out. They also have a 75% chance of being decreased speed applied to them, the small version, but still decreased speed is nice. And you can reduce their attack and reduce their defense. So all in all, he is an absolute S tier rare, one of the best rares in the game in my opinion. He also has a speed faction crypt aura of 15%. Stats are actually nice as well, 16.5 HP, 16,500 HP is good. 1,000 attack is quite good. 900 defense is okay. He can take a hit on the chin. He's not really squishy, which is good. And he's got 99 speed as well. So all in all, thereabouts. 100%, if you get this guy, you at least want to 50 him. And you probably want to 60 him. Because with him being void, you can take him everywhere. And he just provides such fantastic control. Doom Tower, dungeon waves, the whole shebang. If we pulled him out of a void shard, he'd definitely go in the queue for 60. Obviously, he wouldn't go on a clan boss team, which is what I'm currently building. But for the rest of it, I think he's a great champion. Next up, we've got Geargrinder, rare HP champion. He will attack one enemy, 7.5% continuous heal on himself for 1 turn if he crits. Based on HP, so you can make him tanky with HP and he does a bit more damage, and he self-heals every time he uses his A1, which is kind of nice. He has a AoE heal of 15% of champion's own max HP. Can go down to a 3-turn cooldown. That's quite nice, you know, it's just an instant heal. It's a pretty decent move for a rare, 15% heal. Not the best, but a pretty decent one. And he also has a 7-turn cooldown revive. Single target, but they do get half the health and half a full turn meter back. You can book it down to 5 turns. Almost essential for me the first time I finished the Ogryn Tribes faction wars, and he would be a nice little reviver to have on your team. Void affinity, it's not weak anywhere. Nice HP faction crypt aura of 25%. In terms of stats, nice and high at 19,000 HP, defense 914, which is okay, 95 speed, which is a little slow but okay. Mine on my main account is level 50. I've never had the need to take him past 50 for faction wars, and we can beat the end level boss on there. So I would 50 him. I'm not sure he's worthy of a 6-star. If you have no other revivers, then you can consider it. It's a single target revive, so it's not brilliant. But again, if you're struggling for it, maybe it's something you decide you want to 60 him. But I would be a little reluctant to. Then the last one, Mycolus, rare support champion. Attacks one enemy, heals himself by 30% of the damage inflicted. Also will heal the ally with the lowest HP by 10% of their max HP. Can't heal himself with that. That's a nice A1. Not really bothered about the self-healing, but whenever he hits his A1, the lowest HP ally gets 10% of their max HP. That's kind of nice. A2 places a shield on himself for 2 turns, equal to 20% of his max HP. Then places ally protect on everybody for 2 turns, obviously not himself. Will also heal all allies by 10% of their max HP. So again, another 10% heal. Ally protect and shield. So he probably could take a hit because he is shielding himself. You build him with really high HP, and he'll actually be able to survive the 25% ally protect. As a passive, reduces all ally damage by 5%, and he takes it instead. So he's very much deciding to be a damage sponge. Really, the question is, if you can get the shield out on a 3-turn cooldown, build it up nice and high, this all might work. And every time he takes a turn, he's healing either all allies on his A2 or the lowest HP ally on his A1. He's got a defense aura for faction crypts for 21. HP is just under 16,000, so decent. Defense is decent at over 1,000. Speed a little slow at 93. If I got this guy, I'm not sure he's worth building like significantly. You could try him at 50 and see how you get on with the shield with the high HP, but I would probably not 60 him, because I think the shield and ally protect is probably not going to be strong enough to keep your units alive. If he had higher base HP, if it was like 20,000, I think that would be much. I'd be much more confident in keeping him alive and actually getting value out of the ally protect. He's not a bad champion. A1 heal is always kind of nice. So I think that if you've got somebody who's protecting your team already, I wouldn't build this guy at all. There's probably better champions that do shielding and ally protect. But if you're missing that role, I don't think there's anything wrong with 50ing him. And he does have a heal on the A1 and this, protection style passive. Again, that's kind of a thing. Take him to 40 first, see how you feel with him, and then you can 50 him after that. And that concludes the rares. I don't really like the uncommons particularly much for the Ogryn tribe. And what you're probably noticing here is this is pretty slim pickings. We've said Bellower is amazing, and other than that, most of them are not great. The voids are all decent, so maybe the 4 of these form the basis of your faction war team, but obviously even just getting void rares early on in the game is hard. Maybe a stun set Ruffstone for a bit of control. You're then really relying on the epics. There's lots of nice epics for Ogryn tribes, so you're going to have to get a little bit lucky with shards. You do know you get Grush at some point during the logins, so he's a really good champion for you to guess. And again, there's not many legendaries up here. It's one of the smaller factions, so you might have to be a little judicious with some of these champs that I've said are crap. You might just have to maybe keep 1 or 2 of them just to get those early faction war stages gone. But fingers crossed for you, you get a Bellower, but if not, you can always grab a Rockbeast, put him in some immortal stuff, and he'll be able to do the first couple of stages of faction wars on his own. I did get a copy of him, and I fed him, I think because I was just absolutely rushing in the first couple of days, and I think I wish I'd kept him now, because a copy of him I think I would like, because Magma Dragon could be interesting. Right, that is the video. I've been the Filthy Casual. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back with some more Raid Shadow Legends very soon. Take it easy, guys. Peace.